Alright, hi everyone. So this is a supplement to lecture 8 on file I/O and plotting. And this is about importing and exporting data in Excel and on plotting. So file I/O or file input-output is something that's really valuable to be able to do. And so what I have to do first is talk about importing data in Excel and then exporting data. And we're just going to go through these steps here and then practice on some data that I have. So before you start, make sure you download the data file that I have. It's a zip directory. If you get it, you can just right click and extract all, extract it in that same location. It shouldn't take too long to extract. It's not very big, but it's just zipped so it doesn't have so many files. Okay, and then what you want to do is make sure you highlight all these files, okay, and copy and paste them back in the location out here. Just that'll make our life a little bit easier. Okay, what I want to do is so how do you import data in Excel? So Excel has an already import tool that you just access by opening the file. All right. So what you do, so example, say I have this pipe data file here. I'm just going to highlight this and then I'm going to double click it. All right. And what this is going to do, it's going to open a dialog window and it's going to ask me things about whether I want to skip the header or not. It's going to ask me about what delimits the data, whether it's spaces or tabs or commas or whatever. Okay. And then I have two options. So then it opens that file in a new sheet. And I have two things that I can do. I can either copy and paste that into the sheet that I have open, or I can move or copy that worksheet. So this is the easiest thing to do, is just show this with an example. So if I double click on pipedata.csv, okay, it opens, and actually when it goes to open that, if it knows it's a CSV file, it assumes as Excel, it says, I already know what to do with this. I'm going to just open it, and it opens it. Now you need to be careful with this, okay, because what's happened here, as I separate these two, is this is saved as a CSV file. And if you make any changes to this, suppose you make this bold, okay, it'll show it as bold. And you can click Control S to save it. But it should tell you this: some features will be lost if you save as a CSV. And you say, oh yes, I want to. And you close that again, okay? Don't save any extra changes. Now I come back and click on here, okay, to open the CSV file. And it does not remember that I had that thing bolded. Okay, so a lot of stuff gets lost. Remember, this CSV file, if I want, I can open it with a text editor. So I can open with something else like Notepad. All right, and look, this is just something with a bunch of commas in it. All right, that separates each of the files. So it's not saving anything about bold or any other piece of information. But Excel knows when it goes to when I double click to open it, it says, aha, I've got it. Now what happens, I want to see this menu. So what happens when I open ratedata.dat, with Excel? So I can do open with, and I can pick Excel out of here. Oh man, is it going to make me go look around? The easier way to do that is to come over here then and do File, Open, Browse, all right, and then I want to find the stuff I'm looking for. So let's see, I come in, this is my video on Excel, and I want to say all files, okay? Got to change this here from, maybe that got hidden by my fat head, okay? From just Excel files, which is what it was before, to all files, right? And now I want to open ratedata.dat. So I do that, I click open. Okay, now here's the text import wizard, okay? So this thing maybe is hard to see, but what it has is it says, start import at what line, okay, or at what row. So remember, when I open this one, if I just double click to open it, I can see what it is. If I had a header on here, I would want to skip those lines, but I don't, so I want it to start at line 1. Let's suppose I wanted to skip it. I would start at 2, all right, and it's telling me down here what the different lines are that it thinks about. So if I wanted to skip that first line, start import at row 2, that's fine. I could say my data has headers, all right, if I've got something else up here that's funky. And then I can tell it, how is this delimited? Is it delimited by a character, or is it fixed width, so I can only take, 9 characters, 9 characters, 9 characters. So I say delimited, all right, and I go to next, and it asks, how am I delimited? What's going on? What's the difference between these things? Well, this is space delimited, not tab delimited. So then Excel, it puts in a line there where it sees a difference. Okay, that's good. That's where I expect it to be. So I say, yes, I like that. That's good. I go to next, and it says, column data format. What kind of thing do you want? Do you want this to be general? Do you want it to be a date? Do you want it to be text? Okay, or skip that column. And I say I want that to be general. Okay, I could skip that one and not that one, or skip that one, not that one. Okay, I want it to import all the columns. I want them to be general numeric values. If you click on advanced, you can tell it all sorts of other stuff here. I don't want to mess with that. Okay, click finish. And look, it opens it in a new thing. Remember, I told it to skip the first line, and now these are imported as data values, okay, as I expected. And now what I can do is I can either copy and paste this, so I can go Control C, Control V over here, and now I've copied and pasted that data in. All right. I have other options. I can right-click on the rate data, so I right-click on that, and I can click Move or Copy. And then this tells me move or copy where. So I can switch workbooks. So right now this is in ratedata.dat, okay, which is opened here. But I want to move or copy over to lecture 08 Excel, okay. And let me create a copy so I don't just move it. All right. And lo and behold, it gives me a new tab here now that's called Rate Data 2, okay. And that's put in right there. Booyah. Okay, so that's the way to import data. So how do I export? Okay, so I recommend the following. Okay, when you do this, I recommend moving or copying your data to a new workbook. So suppose I had this data here. Okay, I would move or copy. Okay, and I would do a new book. All right, and I click OK. And I moved that one. I didn't copy it. Okay, so I moved that one, and when I did that, now it's moved over here and it's created a new book, book 1. Why do I say to do that? Well, now I'm going to select this and do File, Save As, and I can pick, this directory, okay, and I can save it as something. Now I want to pick a file format here, and I'm going to either pick .text format or a .csv format, all right? And apparently there's something different between Mac and DOS. DOS is what you want, or here's a CSV format. I actually think there's a bunch of different ones. I'm not sure what exactly it cares between DOS and Mac. I would guess it has to do with the way the end of line character is. But it looks like this one right here, Unicode text. That's a great file format to pick, okay? .txt, so I can export it to that. Often from Excel we're going to export to a CSV because Excel really likes CSV formats. So let's pick CSV, comma delimited, right? And now I might save it as rate data no first row, okay, .csv, and click save, right? And it says you might be losing some information. Formatting, do I want to keep it? Yes, I do. Okay, now I look over here in my directory, and indeed I should have saved, where did it go? Right there. For rate data no first row .csv is saved. Okay, now look, the reason I wanted you to do to move it to a new workbook and save as, because now this is saved as a CSV. If I had saved my original workbook as a CSV, all right, it would have made a copy of it, but now if I forget and start making edits here, it's going to screw it up, all right? And I promise that if you don't do this, and someone will, okay, they will forget and export their data as save as, and then you're going to continue editing your worksheet, and when you do that, you're going to lose stuff, and you're going to turn it in, and some of you, are going to turn in a .csv file instead of a .xl file, .xls or .xlsx, and it's not going to have the stuff in it, and it's going to cause you to get points taken off because the TAs are going to go to grade it, and it's not going to have all the stuff you saved in it. All right, so be very careful when you're doing this, okay? And maybe if you're watching this, you're not in the class and you think, ah, ha, ha, I'm not going to lose points. I promise you that I have done this before. I did this the other day when I was doing my grades. I saved something and exported it and was editing it as a CSV file, and I lost an hour and a half worth of work, okay? So this can happen to you. It's very easy to happen to you. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means you're forgetful, but you need to be aware of this, and this is very easy to happen, okay? So once you export this with CSV, now it's saved, okay? You don't have to save it again. It'll prompt you lots of times. It's right there, okay? I can open that with Notepad if I want, all right? And there it is. There's my data right there, okay? Notice when it exports to Notepad, it didn't save a lot of the, it didn't save a lot of extra characters there. So I've lost some decimals of precision. So be careful about that when you export, about the decimals of precision. All right, plotting. How do I make a plot? That's the other thing I want to cover in this little example. Just a few minutes left. How do I make a plot? Well, what I do is I come up here to Insert, and I select Chart. Okay, I insert a chart, and I can click this little corner here, and it tells me I want to have the data already. So if I'm going to do that, I can select my data right here. Pardon me, and insert chart. All right, and it brings up a little wizard, and that wizard says, what kind of chart do you want to make, and it has all these recommended charts. All right, for our class, what we want to do is do the XY scatter. Okay, so pick scatter, and you click OK on that, and it'll bring up a chart. All right. Now, the Excel sort of stock formatted chart is pretty ugly, and so you need to do some things to make it not so ugly. So if you want to make it nice and formatted like this guy, so you can format the chart in lots of ways. You can come over to chart design and format, and you can change things. The easiest thing I think to do is to click on different pieces here, so you can delete these lines, for instance. You can click on the data. If you want to make it a line plot, you do format data series, right? And it'll bring up these guys here, and you can change whether there's a line, so you can add a solid line. Marker changes what the dot is. You can say no line on the marker, okay, or excuse me, we need to go back here on the marker, and you want no fill on the marker to make it have no fill, no line on the marker to have no line, and you click OK on that. And if you look here, now we've just got a single, oh man, did that undo? That did the wrong one, right? That was really confusing. Let me make this big so we can look at that. Okay, I actually made the orange ones have the blue line, which is what threw me off. So let me undo that, go back here. Okay, so I'm going to select these orange points, and I'm going to do Format Data Series. And I come over here, click this guy, and I click on this one to have a solid line. But now I can pick the color. Let me pick it to be orange, because it was orange there. There we go. Okay, and I can click now on that same orange one, and if I want to get rid of the markers, I click on marker, I click no fill there, and no border on the line, and now it gives me just those points that come up and down. Okay. If you need to edit the series, okay, you click here, and I think it is select data. Okay, and this tells you which data series you're working with. Okay, so here you can click edit on series 1, and this tells you what the x values are and what the y values are. All right, so this is plotting, x versus u, and the other one is x and u average. All right, and so you can continue to edit the chart in that way. There's lots of things you can do. You can edit the font size here of the labels, which is nice to do. Usually you want labels that are big enough to be able to read. You can edit the distance of the axis. So if you click on Format Axis, you come over here and you can change the bounds, say from 0 to 1, so that it matches at the end there. You can change what the units are. Suppose I want it to be every 0.1 instead of 0.2. All right. You can delete the title, make that thing get bigger. You can delete the legend here, okay, and this thing starts to look a little nicer. You can add things to the labels, so we can come in here. I think that's actually on this plus sign now. It's moved here. So I want an axis title. Okay, so I have an axis title. Now I want to make that one say velocity u of meters per second. Okay, and I can increase the font size there, maybe to be 14, so it's big enough to read, etc. Okay, so you can see how it's how you're able to edit these sorts of titles and other pieces of the plotting. Okay, so plotting in Excel is pretty straightforward. It's mostly an exercise in menus, and I will go ahead and let you play around plotting this rate data. A good thing to do, for instance, is try and play around with this plot, make a plot of your own, and see if you can replicate the plot that I made. All right, so that's some good practice. So I think that's all I have for you on this. That's file, input and output, and plotting in Excel, and I hope you have a good one.